what is being associated with it, I think, is Icelandic.
Okay.
Now, if you need Icelandic for other purposes, then you associate something different. But every Inkey keyboard gets associated with some system locale.
Dan?
Thanks, Bob.
Dan, question. If you've got Keyman installed, you put Inkey.
So long as they're not using the same system languages, you're good.
Of course, they're all using Icelandic.
Well, then change it to something else. Uninstall Keyman.
This list of languages, when you left-click the Inkey icon, that's the list of Inkey keyboards you have installed?
That's by their Inkey names. Now, if I click on my Windows language bar, they're not all necessarily by their Inkey names. See there, you see the Galician instead of generic.
So I've got lots more languages in my Windows list than in the Inkey list.
I'm not sure. Because if you've got other system languages installed, you could associate them with, you could tell Inkey what to do about them. If you want to call them this or that.
Okay, so I've got an MSKLC keyboard, a couple of MSKLC keyboards associated with different languages. Those languages don't come up when I...
You could make them do that, but we won't go there right now.
Okay, so this list is the one...
This is the languages that Inkey knows about. Right. Okay? And you could tell Inkey about other system languages so that Inkey controls those. If you want those to... So that's all unified for you. Good question. All right. Yes. That was left-clicking on the Inkey icon. Right-clicking on it, you see the Inkey menu there. And we have an outbox. I make a nice splash screen. But what you should be looking at now is a configure Inkey option there. So I right-clicked on Inkey icon, and then from the menu you see configure Inkey. Is everybody there?
Yep.
Anybody not there? Need more time? Okay. Oh, and I love this 800 by 600 resolution.
We can adjust that.
So hopefully you have more than 800 by 600. These are options. Okay, we've got 3 tabs here. We're on the Inkey options in the middle of those tabs. And various options you can have. Start with Windows is probably, if you often use this, that's what you want. Portable mode would be where it is not going to follow the system language because you're just using it. You use your hotkey or something to activate keyboard. You're not trying to get it with the level integration into the operating system. You know, that it's actually installing stuff in the registry in portable mode. The option there to follow the Windows input language, that's saying whatever Windows says the system language is for this window, I need to follow that and do the same thing. This next 2 options, you will notice that as Inkey starts up and as it closes, the text services and input languages window will briefly pop up. And that is, there's a bug in Windows that when we programmatically add or remove languages, the language bar does not get updated until that box has been opened. So that's kind of our workaround to deal with that Windows bug. There are different locales that you can associate, with your keyboard. Not all versions of Windows, the earlier version of Windows, the less locales that were available. And so if you were to use a locale like Oria, which I think only came out, I don't know, maybe about Vista, on certain programs, Flex among them, on a previous version of Windows, would green screen if it encountered a locale that it didn't know about. So what we do is we say an Inkey keyboard that uses a more recent language should have an alternate language associated with it that's a more major language. So you might like to have Oria if you're using it on a system that supports Oria, but if it's an older version of Windows, it should use Romanian, because OR instead of RO, yeah, it's still a reasonable thing to have associated with it. So that's what alternate language is about. Yeah. Underlying layout has to do with what your physical keyboard is like. Show the keyboard name balloon is a tooltip that pops up so that you see the keyboard name as you're switching. And I think never mind the rest of it right now. Interface language, if you change that from English to Russian, then when Inkey starts, you have to remember configure is the second thing on the list to get your way back.
Who did that?
That was Ben Chenoweth's doing.
Okay.
But what it means, it's very easy for you to localize Inkey to your context. So if you want the Inkey interface to be in Thai, you can do that. Okay. What actually happens when you install Inkey? It asks where, and by default it wanted to put it under app data. And so if you come here, yours is going to show differently than mine because I've got mine in a different place right now. But that open button, go ahead and go there and click that open button. That's going to open your Inkey folder. So what constitutes installing a keyboard? Well, it's basically in your Inkey folder, there is a folder for that keyboard. And in that folder, there are the files that the keyboard uses. So if that is present when Inkey starts, then Inkey knows about it. It's going to be in the list if your settings in here are for that keyboard to be enabled. Okay. So as we are editing the keyboard, we will come into that folder to make that change. Back in the configuration, on the leftmost tab, Add Configure Keyboards, that is where you can install keyboards from, enable, disable keyboards, so we can check and uncheck what we want to have showing up. And in changing that, it restarts, and now the ones I just unchecked are no longer in my list. Also from here, you can configure a particular keyboard. If you select something, you could click this Configure Selected Keyboard. Or probably a more convenient place to get at that, from your icon, right-click, and configure keyboard options. You can jump to things from right there. So if I were to configure my DevROM keyboard options, I just go through that menu to get to DevROM. Here's what I see. These are the general properties associated with my DevROM keyboard. There's the layout name that is going to be referred to as my Inkey. There's the menu text, which is probably very similar to that, but it can have an ampersand in it to indicate that the following letter is the underlying letter. There's the hotkey. And now here, you see to the right there, caret means control, hash means Windows, plus means shift, and exclamation point means alt. Auto hotkey has a syntax for specifying hotkeys. And so we're using that syntax to say what key will activate the keyboard. So this is saying if I were to press Control Windows V, it's going to activate my DevROM keyboard. Does that make sense? Associating a hotkey. So if I wanted to be able to launch DevROM keyboard by pressing the hotkey, that's where I set what I want that to be. Okay? There's where we set our locale. So our primary locale. And then if we need an alternate, we can specify that there too. That's where we can say what icon we are using for it.
I'm a little confused on the locale. Does that mean that when you load you load the Nepali language in your system, and then Nepali is associated with this keyboard? Is that what happens?
That's saying when Inkey sees that you are using Nepali locale,
It's going to jump.
it's going to activate.
That's good.
John.
I just want to point out that it's not just you don't just want to choose your locale based on the letters. I've done that before and chosen like a non-Roman script.
Oh, yes.
That happens to have a nice sequence of letters in its name, and then that can cause problems.
Yeah, like Word might decide it's going to switch on a certain font because you just told it that you are using Tamil, and so it said, oh, well, let me help you here. So generally, yes, do something of a similar nature to the language that you're going with.
Is there any way or a place to find on the internet for all of the default languages that I'll say that come in Windows 7?
Yeah.
What there are, Roman or otherwise scripting? Is there a way to find that?
I think if you Google for Windows locale,
The wiki or something like that?
There's a Microsoft page that even shows what version of Windows they were using.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So those are the generic options that every keyboard has something like this. For DevROM in particular, you see that we have a button here, configure DevROM specific settings. And that's because DevROM has said, hey, I've got some specific settings. So the DevROM keyboard developer says, these are the things that I got all my users. So Steve was talking about languages that, there's this la consonant that many languages don't use. And so if you do, you want to check that button. If you don't need that, then you can use the Shift L that would produce that to give a shortcut for a different character that would be handier to use there. You can see options like use Devanagari digits rather than Western digits by default, because some people want it one way, some people want it the other way. Use smart quotes by default. Have some people who like the way that the vowels should operate is, say, if I want the full vowel, I will always press the dead key first. And so that's what Bobby Eaton likes, and so you can check that box and operate that way. But the idea here is you're giving the user the capability to set options. So you maintain one keyboard, and your users pick the functionality that they want from that.
How did you get into this menu again?
How did I get this up?
Yes.
That was, I have this option here, configure DevROM specific settings. Now I have given you a keyboard that has that there. But that is basically there's a setting that as a keyboard developer you have told Inkey we have a configuration GUI that is called DevROM configure.ahk, another little program that you provided that made that GUI, that gave them options, and that saved those options back into this file according to what they chose. And so then the keyboard bases things off of that. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Last thing to talk about in our Inkey configuration are the hotkeys for controlling Inkey. And again, the principle is there is more than one way to do it. Some people like to have a hotkey that they press to do these different things. Like I want to get back to the default keyboard, so I will press something like Control Window down. Get back to. Some people prefer to use a double tap. I do, because I'm just hitting one button, and it's kind of like doing a double click on the mouse. If I double tap my right shift, that gets me back to my default keyboard. So I'm back in my US layout. You can cycle forward backwards through those two keyboards, again, with either with pressing a certain hotkey or by a double tap. So double tap your right control, cycles you one way. Double tap your left control, cycles you the opposite way through your list of languages.
I don't understand this. See, change the default keyboard with double tap. What's the right shift got to do with double tap?
Change
Second line. Change the
this one here, or this one.
This one. No. Yes. What you were saying there?
What I was saying there is if you got that setting there, then if you double tap on your right shift key, it puts you back to your default keyboard.
Oh, double tap on the right shift side.
Okay. Now, if you do that, double tap, double tap, double tap, and you got sticky keys, there's a setting that after 5 times of hitting shift,
It thinks you're.
it thinks you're trying to turn sticky keys on. I like to just turn that off because I don't mean to have sticky keys come.
And when you say on the first one, you said change the default keyboard. Do you actually mean that window icon button? That's,
Then it goes back to whatever your system default keyboard.
so you would actually hit Control and then this Win button.
Oh, on the first there, that would be Control Windows down. Will do the same way.
That's this one. Yeah, that's the Windows keyboard.
Makes sense. Where we were talking about pop up the menu of languages with double tapping your left shift, that is this down here. If you just want to toggle the keyboards on, say you're going back and forth between your iPad keyboard and your Devanagari keyboard, you can just toggle to whatever was the previous keyboard with double tap your left alt.
We can also turn it down. Does anybody
Can't turn it down.
No.
It's either
You can
on
turn it
or
on or
off.
off, so you can turn it off for a few minutes.
Is anybody feeling warm? I'll switch seats with you.
I'm very chilly.
I'm feeling happy. Okay.
I'm okay to turn it off or what?
Change sending mode has to do with there's certain applications that don't play well with the way they're sent text, and by changing the sending mode, sometimes that will let them accept the text that we're sending. And so you can just try that, press your Control Windows equal key if you find that the application is not doing what you want. Resync Inkey. Actually, I was supposed to say reload all keyboards. You'll want to know this one. Windows F12, when you're developing a keyboard and you've just made a change to it, we will be looking at that shortly. That just reloads things, so you can instantly test out what the changes you've made. Add a control to that, and that will totally restart Inkey. Grab the context is hitting F12, and I mentioned that before. So,
What was sending mode?
sending mode was there's certain applications that don't receive text very well. It's kind of rare, but there's once in a while I've encountered an application that doesn't accept. I think Inkscape might be one that has problems with getting keys by the normal way, which is behind the scenes. I think it's using a send input. Windows has different ways of sending characters, so you can change between different sending modes that way. That you will try different ways of sending text. So those are our options. Let's actually use it. And for it, I'd like you to open your Unicode string inspector. Did everybody get a chance to install that?
I think so, but it didn't.
Yeah.
I've noticed that you have many keyboards that's been set up, and many of us probably might be using more than two. So, say we are using just two of that keyboard quite often, and you mentioned about the toggling switch, probably that's possible under the configure. Just between two, not the third one.
Yeah, you just want to go back and forth to whatever you were using
Exactly.
previous. Just double tap your left alt.
Double
Tap your left alt. I mean, unless you set it to some other way of doing it. That was the setting that we were looking at. By default, double tap your left alt. Okay. Is there anybody who does not have Unicode String Inspector installed and open? This is such.
Where's it? Where's there a shortcut? I don't see a shortcut in the start menu. Do you know where?
I don't know that it makes a shortcut. I think you might just want to run it from wherever you installed it to.
I don't know where it installed. I wasn't paying attention.
It might put it under program files, maybe under SIL.
Okay.
Do a search for string.
It's under SIL.
I'm going to search for Unicode.
And then you might want to just pin it to your.
It's program files, SIL Unicode String Inspector.
Or just run, type that.
It's the default.
Okay. And when you're developing keyboards, having it pinned to your taskbar is very handy. Anybody who's not there yet?
Do you recommend changing hotkeys?
Up to you.
But
Whatever works. It's whatever works well for you. Google has something that makes use of a double tap on the left control. I think maybe Google does that. So if you don't want that to conflict, assign something else. All right, Unicode String Inspector is just a handy place to test your keyboard because whatever you type there, you see the Unicode name and the code point of it coming through underneath. There are a couple Easter eggs, hidden features that are worth talking about.
What if mine says no Unicode name found? That's what mine says too.
That's what mine says too.
So what?
No Unicode name found.
Under the Unicode names?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you press any key, they all say no Unicode name found.
Mine works.
It's probably missing the Unicode text file thing that has all the definitions in it. Whatever it was called.
We may need to just switch back to default keyboard for now and just use our local English to demonstrate this first.
Well, even with English, does it come up with names?
No.
Okay, well then you want to the names, just the code points. This is something Bob Eaton wrote, pulled it out of what he'd done for the ticket, not editor. I'll ask him what it's missing. It's probably missing something on the system.
Anyone has Apple Pad, it can do almost the same kind of
Okay,
thing.
so that could be a good kind of platform to do that. A couple hidden features. You can, here you can press Alt-X to toggle your previous thing between the code point, assuming it's in a BMP, not SMP character. Alt-X will toggle back and forth between. So I can put 0915, which is the code point for a demonstrate cop, and then I will see that right there. Okay, so as you, we're going to double tap our left shift, press I for IPA, and now you see I've gone to IPA. So now IPA has operator keys, post modifiers, or whatever you want to call them, that say when I press equals after a P, it turns it into bilingual click. Everybody's seeing that kind of thing happening, and in fact, if you don't remember the keystroke to use, the IPA keyboard equals, you keep on pressing that, that will help you find all the different kinds of P letters there.
How'd you do it again?
So I turned IPA keyboard on, I press whatever letter, like Y, and press equals, and it turns it into what the IPA layout has decided Y equals should be. Yeah. There are different modifier letters. If you want to see the IPA keyboard chart, you can right-click on your Inkey icon and say Display Keyboard Layout, and choose IPA, and that brings up the documentation on how do you get the different kinds of characters. IPA has a huge number of characters that you're trying to get at. There's all your consonants, table, vowels, segmentals. They all have some way of keying them. Because it can be hard to remember all those things, the equals key then is your way to get at. So here's all our different Y kind of shapes. Okay?
You're cycling this by pressing Y?
I'm pressing, no, I'm pressing equals.
Okay.
Okay? So there is different Y type of characters I can get. I'm going to press H and press the equals key, and I'm getting all different kinds of H's. Okay, now those are actually the same. So we're going to come back and talk about that one in a while. Is that working for everybody to be able to type text in your Unicode string inspector?
I had to switch the font to an SIL font.
Ah, how did you switch the font?
Right click.
Well, I'm going to have to stand up here. Right click on the edit control where you would type, and you will see it says change font. Okay? Who'd have thunk it?
Arial Unicode.
Yeah, Arial Unicode is a good choice there. If you use SMP stuff, something like if you get code 2001, that will let you get at pretty much everything. So, yes.
I selected the IPA keyboard in Inkey.
Yes.
When I type in the Unicode inspector, it doesn't bring up IPA characters, but maybe I'm doing something wrong.
The same thing over here on this machine.
Yeah.
Okay, is it showing the
It shows this thing.
IPA logo like this?
Yes.
But when you're typing, it's not doing it.
Right.
Same here. Let me just take a quick look at these. What's your default system?
So I did this. I clicked it, it turns on IPA.
So you select go pages.
Where do I push the key? This was toggle.
I type P.
No. Okay. So what was happening for some reason when you were picking it out of the system tray, it's the other thing, it was setting the system language for the system tray. But now that I put it in here, and from in here I just double tap my left shift to get the language.
So this dialog
That would.
message or pull windows.
I think somehow this was setting system language for the system tray, not for the screen inspector.
Had a couple of crashes.
There's a hotkey crashed.
How did you fix it, Terry?
He has the same problem.
Oh, you have to put the dialog box in focus. And then you have to hit twice. That pops the menu and choose IPA. When you made IPA for the taskbar, but not for the application. So it can distribute the messages just every local.
Did the shift key twice?
Left shift key twice. Brings up a new
I don't know, I have to. No, that number's not in there. On the
Yeah, no, it's up.
There we go. So somehow it's not getting the message to everybody, it's just going, locally something.
Try using a hotkey or double tap left.
Double tap left.
You got it? Okay. Everybody getting it so that it's behaving for you?
No.
Good. Oh, well. And this guy uses Dvorak for starters.
And Keyman installed. No, I just took it off.
MTTs, are we going?
Oh, yeah, Keyman was preventing mine from working too.
Yeah, I took it off just now.
Okay, let's follow instructions. If things just get weird, just control Windows F12 and restarting it. Does everybody have something that is working? Typing keys in Unicode String Inspector. Anybody not? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is the Inkey keyboard layout is it the same as
MSK layout?
For IPA? No, MSKLC for IPA cannot change characters, but it is based on the keyman version of the IPA. So I'm not sure what an MSKLC IPA keyboard, how you would get certain, that would be...
I mean the sequence.
For the sequence on an MSKLC keyboard, you have to use dead keys to get all those characters. And I'm not sure I've seen an MSKLC keyboard for IPA.
Looks similar, so
Okay.
It does that. It uses dead keys.
Yeah.
So equal E does something, left wedge E does something else,
Okay.
right wedge E, ampersand E.
Oh, wonderful. So it would be then similar. So if you know the one, you could learn the other. Okay.
How do we get it to work in Flex?
How do we get it to work?
In other words, when you go into the writing systems Flex, you only have Windows and keyboard options, right?
Yeah, Flex. I don't know what Flex does with Keyman, but we don't need it because we just say we're a system language.
Right. Okay. So let's say Icelandic.
Yeah.
Is your the keyboard you're going to use for your phonemic rendering.
Yes.
Right. And then so I select Icelandic, and then it's not giving me the IPA Inkey.
Then show me when that happens, and we'll look at
Okay.
what's going wrong, because that's how it should work. When Flex turns it to Icelandic, and he should say, oh, then you want IPA.
Yeah. It goes to the default keyboard.
Okay, well then must be a bug.
Just to clarify the question about IPA, the last I checked a couple of years ago when I was making a visual chart of it, that the official IPA keyboards from SIL for Keyman and for MSK were pretty much identical, except that except the order you type them in is reversed.
Okay.
So instead of a modifier after the character, you do the dead key before the character, but otherwise they were identical.
So
Never
for
mind.
things like where you press, say I went, once it down below, I press my right curly like 4 times.
Yeah, but there is a direct way to do that in the Keyman keyboard, and MSK one uses the direct. So yeah, you can't cycle through the whole list in the MSK one.
Oh, okay, but the Keyman one, I thought that is the way you get it.
I think it's one way you can get it.
Oh, okay, it's the only way it's shown in the chart.
Huh. Okay, maybe I was looking at a reduced list. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. If you choose the language called Extended US, it's a very simple little keyboard that you will use in writing Inkey scripts. And the things that this does are pretty basic. You can you'll need arrows when you're making Inkey keyboard, so you use Alt and your the period key to get at that. There is, as of Monday, I tossed in a very rough version of an on-screen layout kind of feature. If you press Windows V, while you got the
What was it?
Windows V, you will get, there's 3 characters that this keyboard produces, and there they are in a little on-screen dealie for you.
Can't get that. Doesn't work.
Windows V
Nothing.
doesn't bring
Mine work.
this is alpha software.
Mine worked some, didn't work the first time, I would say.
Alt plus comma alt plus.
There are some issues with that I need to track down. It's kind of preconditioned. But just to say, you can have on-screen layout kinds of things that you
Make sure you have code string inspector
What?
selected.
What did you type? What did you actually type? What characters did you type?
to get those.
Yeah.
I clicked on the button, but let's say I press A. Now I could use my keyboard, which is Alt and period,
Yeah.
to get the arrow, and I press B. Or I could go and click over here. You see it pops up a little tooltip telling me what I should press to get that if I want to use the keyboard for it. So I have a bit of teaching function to it. So you can click it there. Oops. I've got messed up. I've got something where it clears the context or it loses track of which was the right window for it to be sending things to. So, okay, now the other thing that this extended keyboard can do for you is, well, not quite so.
Is the keyboard supposed to work in that extended, in that window up there?
Yeah.
It's supposed to work.
It's not working.
Sort of.
You're asking me that question that makes me think.
No, it's not. So
It's not working?
It's sort of working.
How is it sort of working?
Well, the equals works, but nothing else does.
Oh, well, the equals, that's at least one key. Are you using IPA?
Yeah.
Or the extend?
IPA.
And so, like, you can press letter and equals to get stuff, but other combinations, like...
Are not working.
No, it's entirely possible that what I put in the installer is a bad version.
See that? Yeah, the equal works, but if I get it like a D and a wedge type of thing, I'm not getting it.
What about other people?
What did you try? Can you do D?
Well, I'm not necessarily using...
Ah.
No, I don't have IPA. But see, my system is not using the installer.
Okay. Well, I want to use what you're using.
Okay.
Yeah, my D with the wedge is working.
Okay.
Okay, not. Now it is. I don't understand it. Okay, it's working now.
Okay. So, if you press, in your IPA, you press P and equals, you get that. You hit backspace, and you're back to your P. And then you can press right wedge instead. That's what you might hit instead of. That's what a single keystroke can do. All right. Tweaking and packaging your first Inkey keyboard. I would like you to open the extended US keyboard. And the way we're going to get there, we're going to right-click on the Inkey icon. We're going to say Configure Inkey. So I right-clicked on the icon. I'm going to left-click on Configure Inkey. I'm going to click the Open button to open the Inkey folder. And from there, we want to change the extended US. So find your extended US. Find it extendedus.ahk. Has everybody found that file? Anybody not there yet? Okay. And open that in your favorite editor.
If you don't have an editor,
you have Notepad.
Notepad will work, right?
Notepad will work. You won't have syntax spelling. Notepad++ would be better.
Okay. I've never edited one like this before.
Okay. Cited for AutoHotkey on the network drive there will give you this syntax coloring.
Okay.
And what we're looking at here, this is the Inkey keyboard. And we are going to make a slight change to it. You saw how we had that little pop-up text that told us what key to press. This section right here is on-screen stuff. That's saying the information buttons it's going to put on an on-screen keyboard. And the help text that it puts there, it says alt period, and you say, we need to localize this. We don't call it period here, we call it a full stop. So make your change. You've made some small tweak to a keyboard script. You save it.
Which line are you doing it?
It's on line 32. We've just made some fairly inconsequential change, but it's a change nonetheless.
What did you change, sir?
I changed period to full stop.
You actually type in full stop?
Right like that. Because we just want to make some slight change to say we had tweaked the keyboard. we now have it how we like it. Okay?
Okay.
Then go back to your folder, your extended US folder, where you had made that change. And if you go up a level, back to your Inkey folder. Well, if you were to take this folder now and put it in somebody else's Inkey folder, that would constitute installing it on their system. The more standard way of packaging a keyboard, you zip it. So I'm going to right click and I use 7-zip to make a zip file. So I've got too much junk in here. Okay. And it made this zip file. Get rid of that. The way you make that into an Inkey package is press F2 and you go take the zip away and you put Inkey there. It'll ask if you're sure you know what you're doing. And there, now you have an Inkey package. You can give that to somebody who has Inkey installed, they can double click on it and it'll install itself into their Inkey folder.
That was great, friend. Sorry about that. How do you change that from
How do you change
zip to package again? Can you say that again?
How I changed it from being a zip file into an Inkey file?
Yes, sir.
I renamed, I changed the extension.
Now what that was it?
You have to unhide extensions.
Oh, if your extensions are hidden, you're not going to see that.
Oh, more evidence that I don't do this.
And you'll also be more susceptible to viruses that masquerade as folders or things like that. So I would generally recommend one of the first things I do in setting up a computer is show extensions for all file types.
So which file was it that
How do
you
you do that?
zipped in with?
Somebody, please.
Okay, the whole folder.
I zipped the whole folder.
Every computer is so.
So zipping the folder and changing the zip extension into Inkey, you made a package. Does that wasn't too hard.
That was great, thank you.
You made a package. Yes.
Did that take away the original extended US folder?
No. It made a zip
I mean, it's
a zip file in the Inkey folder, and the original folder is still there.
Oh, I see. So it just takes, zips it, makes a copy of it.
Makes a copy. Okay. Everybody packaged an Inkey keyboard?
Are we violating some cosmic rule of not having, we shouldn't have more than 3 letters after a period on it?
No.
Okay.
No. And in fact, you can have periods all throughout the name of your file too. So that's all
Kosher,
fine and
yeah.
good. Yeah. What time is our break?
9:45.
9:45. Okay.
Sorry, I still have a question.
Yes.
When this is done, zipping and changing the extension to Inkey, and it's given to someone, how is it used?
They will double click on it if they've previously installed Inkey,
No?
and installing Inkey registers that Inkey type with meaning go and install it. Or the other way they can do it is from the icon there, right click, say configure Inkey, add configure keyboards, and then they can say install new keyboard or update existing keyboard from file, and they can point that Inkey file.
So if I did that in this folder, would it overwrite
Yeah.
my extended US folder?
Right.
So it just puts itself in there.
Yep.
So if someone's out and it doesn't complain, it knows what to do.
I think it might ask you to go and overwrite INI file or something, but it assumes you know what you're doing. Maybe you should. Okay. Now, yeah, you can ship that. Now, if you're starting from scratch and not doing something like just making a small tweak like that, this is where the Inkey keyboard creator will come very handy. And for that, you'll want to, I think if you start typing Inkey keyboard creator, it'll pop up in there. Go ahead and open that up. And it doesn't fit in 800 by 600, how about that? So everybody go ahead and open that up. Is there anybody who's not there yet?
This is in my documents.
Anybody need help in getting there? Okay. those of you who are there already, you can start tweaking a keyboard layout. This will not let you, build an IPA keyboard from here, but you can do some things, and the main thing is just get something that is your starting point. So, let's say that you want to add a few keys of different kinds to this keyboard, and then we're going to go and look, and we're going to install that, and we'll look inside the APK file and see what things look like. So, let's start by going to say that when I press the N key, I want to get the Eng character. So I'm going to click on N right there, and it comes up with this, and it says copy the Unicode character or set of Unicode characters into the box below. Don't worry about the rotas yet. Now, you could use your IPA keyboard to type that right there. So turn on your IPA, and you get that by pressing N right wedge. Is everybody there?
That's actually pretty good.
Anybody not there?
And what?
Right wedge. The greater than sign. Okay.
I have IPA on, but it just types N period.
You need
Press
to do
the shift.
shift for greater than, not the period.
Does the mnemonic feature?
Oh, shift period to get the greater than.
You have to have an English keyboard to do this?
Use the IPA.
No, I mean, it doesn't seem if you use the basic keyboard you have installed is not English, it doesn't seem
This is the.
to give you, it's not meant for mnemonic.
The wedge is on a different key.
Oh.
It doesn't seem to work in any
Does it?
yeah, you seem to have to.
Okay, we have some issues if your default
You need to have the,
if your default system does not make US keyboard with that, but I need to address.
I have to change the.
We do have some issues with that. Okay. So we have assigned that N character to the N key. Under options, I want you to go and say we're going to have 2 dead keys. Even though I have told you that dead keys are really bad form, that'll be helpful if we learn how Inkey keyboards work.
I think your import key man is pretty cool.
That's Ben Chenoweth's. I don't know how much. It might be just fairly simple KMN files that can handle. This Inkey keyboard creator is Ben Chenoweth's doing. I can take no credit or blame. Everybody turned off 2 dead keys in the options?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now we are going to say what those dead keys are. Let's pick our backtick up here. And we're going to tell it this key is dead key 1. You see the option I'm clicking on right there. We're saying the backtick is dead key 1. And I'm going to click OK. And now that dead key has a red box around it. Okay? Then, because the minus key is on my screen, not wrapped off, I'm going to make that my dead key 2. Everybody there?
Are you getting that dialog?
This is
You
what
just click on a
comes
key.
if I've set options. I have 2 dead keys, and then when I click on a key, this is the dialog I get that shows,
Okay.
and I can assign one to be dead key 1 and the other to be dead key 2. Okay?
So I'm getting behind. What did you type in to make the first dead key?
I make backtick be the first dead key.
Just click it and select it on the right. Should be the key.
grayed out.
Okay. Okay, now.
That's the first dead key.
Or how many people are not there yet?
The pink box is grayed out.
The pink box is grayed out.
Dead key 1.
Is it?
On his, it's grayed out.
Which?
Mine is grayed out.
On mine, it's not grayed out.
What about the little thing?
Did you
I
define
don't
2
know.
dead keys?
Options.
Options, 2 dead keys.
Did it matter which order you did first assign dead key 1, then dead key 2?
I can't assign dead key 1 because the box that says this key is dead key 1.
That's grayed out. Okay. Well, look on somebody else's with that, and I'll let Ben know.
And I'm having a problem, once I've set a dead key, I can't turn it off.
Yeah, I noticed that. There's once you click in those radio buttons, there's no way to unselect one.
You have to go back to the beginning.
You have to start totally over.
No, if you do options and take off the 2 dead keys, you're okay.
Oh, will that do it?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
not exactly though, because then you can't have any dead keys at all.
Well, then you just turn on your dead key then. If you want to change it, just go to another key and set it as dead key 1, and then change it.
Okay, I didn't follow that, but.
If you set something else as dead key 2, and that'll
yeah.
take it off.
Okay, that's. Whoops. Okay, so we've set up 2 dead keys, and now we are going to let's click on a vowel like E, and we're going to in the left box say what we want that to. E should normally put out letter E, so that's what we put in the white box. In the pink box, we're going to say what happens if this comes out dead key 1. I'm going to press E, and I'm going to press my equals, so I get an upside down E. In the blue box, I'm going to put my equal twice, so I've got a couple different shapes that I get out of this. Okay, so I have assigned the E key to normally put out letter E, and after dead key 1 we'll put down upside down E, otherwise it'll do kind of like a number 3 shape with E. Okay. You could do that with a few more letters. Maybe just for the sake of an example, you could say on the A key, I'm going to give it something with dead key 1, but I won't give it something with dead key 2, just to see how it comes out different. And with I, I'm going to give it something with dead key 2, but not with dead key 1. Everybody see how we can assign dead keys? 9:45 is our break time?
Yeah.
Okay. It is 9:45. After the break, we will take this into Inkey and we'll see what Inkey keyboard creator created for us. So go ahead and what time does break end?
10:15.
Okay. We'll start again at 10:15.
Thanks.
If anybody is having problems getting things to work, let me know and we can work on it right now.
You can't use the program because the screen resolution setting, all the options are out past the edge of the dialog box. I tried messing with it, it only made it worse. Access the keyboard side of the window.
What's
Well, it was at like the lower resolution, so I put it to the max resolution and it only made it worse. But I think part of the problem is he's got this set to 125%. But I mean, you can already tell if you make the that, it's going to be unbelievable.
Well, if you can get us some advice, I can verify that.
Well, you have to log off and back up.
Okay, give it a try. The good news is that you don't really need a keyboard creator for long. It just gives you a starting point. Okay, so it's waiting for this one until it's saving the file. Save what worked on so far. Oops. Well, quit and start. Just start.
Can I show you?
Yeah, just a minute. First, Doug.